Margaret Kuhlman of Soul Astrology. This Libra new moon chart is really interesting pattern. There's the T-square with the new moon itself, a sun-moon, opposite Mars in the traditionally opposite signs of Aries, the self, and Libra, relationship. So how much for me and how much for everybody else? That dilemma. Both square, so this T-square, to the Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, Capricorn bunch. And the triangle, the same Capricorn bunch, but with smooth and, in a way, kindly connections. The trine and sextile to Venus and Neptune, opposite. If that wasn't enough of a tug-of-war, we've got Mercury opposite Uranus. Mercury, the personal thinking, in Scorpio and retrograde, looking inward, deep, all the problems, the pains, the suffering that people have been going through. But also looking for the jewels in the dirt, as it were, the pleasures that we have got from being forced to take acute attention of who we really want to be in contact with. So some relationships deepening and others falling away. The closeness of Zoom meetings contrasted with the complete separation of physical connection. So these three oppositions really characterize something. They are suggesting that we have to make a choice. Libra is about choosing anyway, and I think of the Libran way of choosing as being to be open to all information, to be open to the changing times until everything that is required allows for the right path to be obvious. And that's Libra's choice. The choice is, okay, now we'll go for it. It's more a matter of timing than of choosing which of two ways. So there's the new moon asking us to do that very thing and trining the North Node. So this choice is perhaps very fundamental to humanity's development at this time. Mars also trines the South Node, sextiles the North Node. So it's again this feeling that our individuality, our courage to stand alone and do what feels right in the moment and all of that is actually correct, that it is the right time for us to maybe stand separate from others, state our own feelings. Not so much opinions. Aries isn't really about opinions, it's about the energy to act and the reactive or responsive energy in the moment. So what's important is whether it is a reaction or a true response. Reaction obviously coming from past experience, and the response being a present time, connected, appropriate action. Libra requires that the Mars energy be appropriate and in the moment, because it's waiting for the right time. Possibly one might say for the turning point. The turning point is a reality, a constant, and we have it inside us all the time. It's that point, that moment, where we choose to go the way of spirit, rather than the way of small personality and ego stuff. We could say that Mercury is the everyday personality, ego, mind, and that Uranus represents the higher mind, that which is inspired because it is completely free of attachments, agendas. It's interesting that this is happening Uranus being in Taurus. So it's almost like the freedom of being natural, responding and being inspired by the moment. It also, on a purely physical level, represents perhaps the separation that happens with lockdowns and social distancing, the physical separation. And Mercury is us looking at it and sharing with each other how painful that is, how potentially unhealthful for the body, and never mind the emotions and the mental state. So that tug of war there. And then Venus, very much about our personal reaching out and loving, whereas Neptune is spiritual loving, the unconditional, that which loves, that just is love. Whereas Venus wants to say, well, you can have love here and there, but I don't really love them. Oh, I really love this. All of that, which is not at all unconditional. And yet Venus is in Virgo, which is about altruism. It's about wanting to help someone else, wanting things to be good for everybody, trying to improve life for all our benefits. So it's very open to being influenced by the love of spirit, the idea that spirit loves everyone and everything, because it's all made of spirit, so it's made of love. And these two, the Venus and Neptune, seem to be understanding what all the physical restrictions or the physical truths are about. Restriction is a Saturn word. Saturn is still very close to Pluto, and Jupiter will be going over Pluto just before the next new moon, so within this lunar month. And one always feels the run-up to things quite strongly. I think we can say that this month includes Jupiter going over Pluto. So perhaps the restrictions of Saturn are due to be overthrown. Certainly in relationship terms, in fairness terms, in justice terms, there is something not quite right about a complete restriction, separating people from each other, which comes about because of people's fear. Neptune's connection to the group is with a sextile to Jupiter. So it's the expansive quality. It's almost as though the cosmos is saying, this is the time. And Jupiter goes ahead, expanding on that potential for complete transformation of how we organize stuff. Mercury is retrograde from about 2 days before this new moon until the 3rd of November. So it goes back into Libra, turns round on the 3rd of November and goes forward and into Scorpio again on the 10th of November. So that period of time when it's in Libra, it will be triggering that square relationship with the Saturn. It only goes back as far as 25 degrees, so in the full moon chart you can see the square to Saturn is pretty precise. From the 27th of October to the 10th of November, that square relationship with Saturn is at its greatest. This is likely to be the conflict with the restrictions. Coming from Libra, it's about the fairness of things, what works, what is harmonious. and what absolutely goes against human relationship. In the meantime, Mars continues retrograde all the way back to 15 degrees Aries at the end of this lunar month, turning, as it were, on the 13th of November. The full moon chart, apart from that square from Mercury, shines up with the moon itself pretty much on Uranus. In the mundane astrology, the astrology that covers world events, the moon generally represents the people. So it looks like we, the people, connecting with Uranus from that full moon, the run up to it as well. So we're looking at two things, two possibilities, and two things that happen anyway. With Uranus in Taurus, we have the separation on a physical level, and we also have the breaking free from the physical level, or even breaking free on the physical level. From my perspective, I find it impossible to know which way the rulings will go, whether restrictions will be powerfully in place or whether they will be dropped. Also at the full moon we have Venus opposite Chiron. Venus in Libra, wanting that harmony, wanting there to be love and light for everyone, wanting peace, but opposing that pain expressed by so many individuals in their individual experiences. Of the whole month, I would say that we are grappling with craziness. It doesn't even matter what your opinion is as to what's crazy. You could be on either side, and there's probably several other sides as well. Whatever you decide, somehow the rest of it seems crazy. And in dealing with that, we become exhausted. So I think there is a general feeling of depression and hopelessness growing up because of that tiredness. The personality cannot continually produce the energy to keep going. It runs out. And the only source for the energy that keeps us bright and open is the spirit itself, because that's the truth. That is the reality, that it's all spirit. What's going on is one level of experience, but there's so much more. And when you make that connection to the spiritual aspect of yourself, or even just remember that it's there, it's amazing how the darkness falls away from you. So this month, we need to make the choice to follow our inner spiritual guidance, making sure that it's not just personality and ego making the choices, but rest within ourselves. Find the quiet point. However you do that, it really doesn't matter. Any form of meditation, exercise can do it, being in nature, being with your animal, if you have a pet, prayer, peacefulness, gentle music, whatever does it for you. Let yourself drop into the moment. Let your heart be touched. Our inner experience is entirely our own responsibility, and we have the option always to make it more comfortable, more joyful, lighter. There's a host of ways. The heart is the root of it, perhaps, and opens really well with gratitude, but also with appreciation, as I've probably said lots of times before, appreciating beauty wherever you can see it or hear it, letting yourself receive that beauty into your heart and appreciating how that feels. It's a very simple choice, and it takes determination and perseverance and a continual refusal to let darkness be all there is. Because that is such a mistake, we are bound to feel bad. And there is no life there to regenerate us. It's like getting into a dark box and pulling the lid down over your head, refusing to let the lid be lifted. I wish you all the best, and we'll speak again next month. When you go inside, it is not lonely, because your heart is never alone. It is not lonely because you expand and expand and include everything that seemed outside before. In the expansion is the light and the joy, and all that seemed dark before fades like mist in the morning. Stay with your dear small self while you become greater, and your edges also dissolve in the light.